Hey everybody, this is Michael here with Max, and welcome to the Safe Zone. This time we're doing a very special episode wrapping up 2013 and all that was survival gaming. Say hello, Max.
Aw, yeah.
Nice. I like your perch there. That's pretty swank.
I've got swag, dude. Come on.
You're like the crow, except more like the bro.
Yes. Yes. And I also wear a backwards cap.
Nice. So you may be wondering why we're here in No More Room in Hell. This is actually the cabin map, which is normally the second map that comes up in the sequence of levels for this game. And it's mainly because we are featuring in this episode some of our favorite games of the past year. And we wanted to give a special shout out to No More Room in Hell as our most hardcore survival game of 2013 based on the ones that we looked at.
Hands down, this game is the most ball-busting one, I think, out of all the other things that we've covered since the Safe Zone has started.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to really respect this game's dedication to just being ferociously hardcore and unrelenting in its attempts to just bend you over and just destroy your will to exist with every playthrough.
Yeah, the overbearing on group play and perfection, really, on trying to get around levels is actually something to really respect about what the developers did with this game.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at a lot of the things that we tend to judge or kind of evaluate games on, like the amount of content that's available, the polish in the user interface and in the gameplay mechanics and things of that nature, I think this game has a lot of really great things going for it and a lot to really like about it. It's just that when you look at it in a whole sense, I think the extreme hardcore nature of it is probably, on one hand, its biggest strength, and on another hand, one of its biggest problems in terms of recommending it generically to everyone, because it is so tough to succeed in this game, but that's kind of also what makes it awesome.
Oh yeah, because of its hardcore nature, really that's its appeal. If there are people who really want a more extreme challenge, then this is definitely the hardcore pick for survival gamers.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, you may be wondering, having said that, what some of our other games that we've selected as Game of the Year material are. And rather than making you wait to the end of the video like some places do, we're just going to get that stuff out of their way right up front. So, let's kick things off with number 3, which is Sniper Elite Nazi Zombie Army 2. Now you might be thinking to yourself, this is an odd pick, because it's kind of a fringe game for this genre in a lot of ways. It's not really as hardcore or as open world sandboxy as a lot of other games in the genre. It's a little bit rooted in things like Left 4 Dead and kind of old school point-to-point gameplay. But this game has a lot of really great things going for it, not the least of which being the almost fetishistic simulation-ish level of detail in the Sniper Elite gameplay mechanics that are its foundation, layered with the completely awesome 80s horror movie aesthetics that make up its visuals and audio work.
Yeah, it's like you're playing in a John Carpenter film. You got the classic synthesizers going, and it really just puts you into that game. I think it is a great element of immersion because that music has become so iconic through movies, like The Thing and other films that he's done. And so when you play that game, you really feel like you're playing just a really great rooted horror game, or even better yet, as we play, survival games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that game, it has enough of the survival elements to it. I mean, you do have to go around and loot weapons and loot ammo. There are, kind of horde mode-esque elements in a lot of those levels where you have to, go in and barricade yourself and set up trip mines and do all these things that are kind of rooted in this survival genre. And even though you might be doing them in a slightly less sophisticated or slightly less elaborate way than you do in some of these other games, I think the roots of it are there. And the other thing I have to really give to this game is just the polish and the refinement of pretty much every aspect of it. I mean, from the zombie animations to the environmental design and lighting, sound effects, as we said, the music, like every bit of this game just screams quality and craftsmanship, and something that I think is very much worth calling out and giving some recognition to.
Yeah, and again, a very focused effort as well. I mean, they knew what they wanted to do with this game, and I think they really achieved it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you might say, why is the first Nazi zombie army game not rated over this one? For me, it's just a matter of refinement and game balance. There were definitely some really hard swings in difficulty in that first game that I think were really ironed out well in the second one, and there's just a level of defined polish and refinement in the second game that I think just puts it over the top for me.
And what is that second game?
Oh, well, segue. We will talk now about our second game of the year, runner-up, I guess you would call it, which is Contagion. Now, again, you might think that we're really into games that kind of borrow heavily from Left 4 Dead, but this is just another one of those cases where this is a game that does what it does so well that it's difficult to not give it some props. And also, I would say, in a lot of ways, I feel like Contagion is almost what I would hope to see from a Left 4 Dead 3. The random level design elements, the just polish and refinement in the content that is in the game, the weapon mechanics, the scavenging aspect, going around and picking up weapons and ammo and items and whatnot. Just smart design decisions all around that are made in this game, I think, all kind of contribute to it being one of my favorites from this year.
Yeah, and I mean, especially just being made off of the Source engine to make a game that fresh, especially to something like the idea of Left 4 Dead, is really really nice to see, and especially since they went really to that extra level and used those refined, like their own art assets to really, again, make the game that much more of just its own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I would say about Contagion, especially versus, say, something like No More Room in Hell and Left 4 Dead, is it kind of fits into that sweet spot between those two games, where I almost consider Left 4 Dead kind of casual at this point. I mean, even though it is a classic and a standard bearer of this genre, and certainly a game that's inspired a lot of these other games, it's got that kind of broad appeal and that kind of almost safe design aesthetic that makes it a little less hardcore and a little less brutal than some of these other games. And of course, No More Room being so hardcore, Contagion kind of sits in that nice sweet spot between the two, where there are a lot of hardcore elements to it and a lot of things that make it tougher than, say, Left 4 Dead, but it's not so extreme and so punishing as, say, something like No More Room.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, it's just perfectly balanced for, kind of how many people you have. So it doesn't necessarily matter if it's, you're playing almost by yourself or you're playing with 6 or 7 other people. I think it kind of does a good way of balancing.
Yeah, I definitely would say having played that game with a bunch of people or just with you or even by myself, the way that it changes the dynamic of the game and goes from, this tense survival horror kind of situation to a coordinated, team-oriented kind of romp through the environment, depending on how many people you have, is definitely kind of a meritorious quality that game has.
Oh yeah, and I mean that is really why that game is number two. Because on top of that, the different game modes that they want to add into the game are also very intriguing and definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah, and obviously, as we've said many times before, in our coverage of Contagion, it's a game that really its only real weak point is content. If you add a few more levels to that game, a few more scenarios, a few more modes, you're talking about a serious contender for one of the best games of this genre. Um, its real only weak spot at the moment is just a general lack of content. But as we've said before, the content that's there presently is quite good. And I mean, even things like the escape scenario versus the escort scenario, going around and rescuing NPCs and having to defend and barricade houses on the fly. That mode, which we've yet to actually show on the show, is another great aspect of that game. But again, it's a mode that only has one level available for it. And so it has a similar problem to the escape mode where, once they can get more content into that game, I think that elevates it even further.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to whatever they are going to implement next in the future.
Absolutely. Okay, so drum roll, please. It's time for our number one Safe Zone Survival Game of the Year, which is 7 Days to Die. And nobody is more surprised than me that this would end up being our pick for the year, especially given how late in the year it was released and how little information we actually had about it up until its release. I'd only really just seen a couple of YouTube videos from people who had early alpha access to it. And I think it's kind of the elephant in the room when you talk about this game to kind of compare it to Minecraft because of the fact that it is kind of a world building and crafting game with a survival / zombie aspect. I mean, I think there's a serious temptation to just say, oh, 7 Days to Die is just a better looking version of Minecraft. But I think that kind of does that game a disservice, and it really doesn't account for a lot of the extra stuff that's planned for the future development of that game. But let's not get bogged down in the future. Let's talk about what that game actually does right in the here and now, because that's what this is kind of all about. And to me, the reason 7 Days to Die is kind of my survival game of the year is because of the fact that what is there in that game is as polished and as refined and as functional as any other game in this genre that we've looked at. But it also is the most ambitious in terms of scope and scale and gameplay mechanics and sophistication. It quite simply can just do more in that game than you can in any of these others. And I think that in and of itself, to me, is what makes that Game of the Year material.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, 7 Days to Die, us going into it, we knew what the game was about. But to see it at its current state and to see how far along and how great the base of it was and how really everything that they have currently, like right now, such as the crafting and the gunplay, all of it is just not only refined, but it's so satisfying when you craft like wooden spikes, or if you watched our video, just going around and really just searching the world, because the world is pretty great looking, I have to say. Just everything about the game is well thought out. It's, again, one of those games that really knows what it's going for, but does it to a point where it's technically already a finished game. At this point, it's just a matter of adding more to what you already have, and what they have is abundant.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be pretty easy for them to say, have had what that game currently does as a target for a finished game, and to say, okay, we're going to price this accordingly, say for $5 or $10, and say, okay, here's a done complete game, have fun with it. Now, for the price that they're currently selling that game at, which is $30, I would say that it is a work in progress, and that there needs to be more added to it, and they've certainly made it clear that their intention is to add more to the game, and I have a pretty high degree of confidence based on what I've seen of it so far that this is a development team that's going to be able to deliver on the promises that they've made and the commitments they've made to what that game is intended to be. And I think that's very exciting, because I think an issue with this genre as it's kind of developing and evolving is a lot of these games have tremendous promise, and they have tremendous potential, and there's so much that can be done with them. But I think the thing that really appeals to me about 7 Days to Die, and the thing that gives me a lot of hope for the future of that game, is that core, strong base that they have, that there's so much already in that game that works so well and is so well refined, that for them to say, okay, these are the other things we want to do in addition to what's already there, I can believe that they will do those things and that they will work as advertised, because what they've done so far is so solid.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely committed to their product. They've been doing it for a while, long before it ever made it on Steam. They were working on it quite a bit through their Kickstarter campaign, and for them to come this far with the product that they have currently is really just a testament to their development, and really their will to execute on what concepts they wanted to actually build upon.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'm always reluctant or hesitant to recommend that people buy early access games, because you really are making a big commitment, and you're taking a big chance and putting a lot of faith in a developer when you buy a game on early access, because you really are buying an incomplete product. But I'd have to say, of all of the early access games that I looked at this year and purchased, I feel like 7 Days to Die is the most validated at this point. It's the one that's come the closest to living up to its potential, even in its initial shipping versions. I mean, they've only really patched that game 1 or 2 times since it hit early access on Steam, and those have been fairly minor patches and tweaks. But just kind of understanding the history of the game's development and looking at their roadmap for where they want that game to go in 2014, I have to believe that that's a game that's worth getting on board with early on, because there's just so much fantastic potential in it, and there is quite a bit of fun to be had with it, even in its current state.
Yeah, I mean, take it from us, how much time we've already spent into that game, that I never imagined us, putting that much effort into that game, and yet, it really captured us, and we just kept on playing and playing, because it's just fun. At the end of the day, with all of, taking in all of the gameplay and all the refinement, it is just a really fun survival game. And it's because of the refinement, and not, the irksome bugs or whatever that you have to deal with some of the other games. It's just it really is a finished product that just needs, or just wants to add to what it already has.
Yep, I would completely agree with all that. I mean, like I said, if they had put that game out in its current state for $5 or $10 and said, here's a done game, I'd have said, oh, that's pretty good for $5 or $10. It's really just a question of, can they deliver on the promise of what they're selling as a $30 game over the next 6 to 12 months. And, as I said before, I believe that they can. I'm willing to go out on that limb and say, based on what I've seen so far, I think that game is going to be a success, barring some kind of catastrophic, unexpected issues. So, there you have it. Those are our 3 and plus 1 picks for our safe zone survival games of the year. I'm feeling pretty confident in those picks, and I guess one thing we should probably do at this point is maybe address some of the things that have been going on in the genre lately, and maybe address some of the reasons why some of the other games that you might have thought would be included on that list are not. So I guess maybe we kick things off by talking about sort of the elephant in the room, right? Which is DayZ Standalone. I think it's no secret that we have been very much anticipating the release of DayZ Standalone. We're big fans of the mod and what the Standalone promises to bring to the table in the future. But I have to say, based on the experiences that we had with Standalone in its initial kind of early access version, I just did not feel that product was representative of where I feel like DayZ should be at this point in its development, given all of the development that's been put into that game so far.
Yeah. It's, and it's really hard to see the game not be where, at the very least, where the mod was, just vanilla DayZ. And things like zombie pathing are broken, and I don't see how that could be acceptable in a game that's the whole, really, that's the thing that's driving the game, is, survival against the zombies, the scavenging aspect, and then survival against the players. But if you can't survive against the zombies, why is it called DayZ?
Or like, you go to such extremes with the current state of the zombies, and for those who aren't aware, for those who haven't been playing, this initial builds of Standalone, you have 2 scenarios that occur with the zombies. One is they either spawn underground and are a complete non-factor, so like you hear them kind of growling and snarling under the surface of the play area, but they can't even get to you unless you go prone, and they kind of reach up through the ground and get you. Or you have a zombie lock onto you, and no matter what you do, you can't lose them. You run around for 20 or 30 minutes trying to go around corners or hide in bushes or go into buildings or whatever, and the zombie just keeps coming in a fashion that is just completely unrealistic and not, palatable as a game mechanic. You got them walking through fences, walking through walls, walking through doors, and just relentlessly tracking you to your current position, even though you've run around several corners and are being quiet and, gone prone or whatever. I mean, they just are so flat out broken at this point, and to have such a core key pillar of the gameplay experience just absolutely not functioning, I honestly believe that at this point that game would be better served by the zombies not even being in it, because at this point they're so broken and so counterproductive to the gameplay experience that they actually just shouldn't even be in there.
Well, yeah, because not to interrupt you, but I just think because to be honest, I tried to play it the other day to see what it was like, and really because I had the DayZ bug, but again, it was just, the Zeds were just that hindering factor that just made me completely turned off to keep on playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's been some progress made even since the launch of Standalone. There have been a couple little patches here and there that have come out and added little things or refined little things or whatever, and that is what it is. And I'm glad to see that they're at least releasing something, or at least, we're getting some kind of motivation or movement out of the development team, even during the holidays. That's admirable. But at the same time, when you've got such core, glaring, humongous issues in your product, it's tough. It's tough to recommend it to anyone. And let's be 100% clear about this. I am not suggesting in any way that DayZ should have been done or should be, this completely playable and polished experience as it was released on early access. Believe me, I understand what the concept of early access is. As a software developer, I'm very clear on, the difference between alphas and betas and finished products. But at the same time, having said all of that, I do believe that there's still a certain expectation or a certain level or a certain mark that they probably should have been trying to hit with that first early access release. And I think the easiest thing to do is simply to compare it to another game that Bohemia released earlier this year, which was Arma 3. And when you look at Arma 3 and the level of functionality and the level of polish that was present in the first early access builds of that game versus DayZ, I think it's a night and day experience. And I think Arma 3 did it right and DayZ did it wrong.
Well, yeah, the very first day of Arma 3, the game was so functional that people were already had the Wasteland servers up and running.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, just when you talk about core concepts of the game, right? Like you can have all of the double glazings and the niceties that you want in your game, but if the core fundamental premise of the game, that being that this is a zombie apocalypse, if your zombies don't work, it's not a zombie game. And then, granted, I get there are a lot of other things happening in that game. There's networking issues to consider. There's inventory issues to consider. I mean, they completely redid the inventory system, the looting system, the way that gear works on the player. I'm not dismissive of those things. I understand that a lot of work went into making all of that stuff work and function as well as it does, and I get all of that. I really do. It's before anybody even thinks to suggest that I'm being unfair or unduly harsh on the thing. But at the same time, especially coming from a scenario where you have this basically fully functioning version of the game in the form of the mod, I think they needed to come a little bit further. Like I almost would have preferred to see them wait until after the holidays to drop standalone and just say, you know what, we're just not where we need to be. And I know at a certain point the pressure to release the thing probably just became overwhelming because people have been clamoring for it for so long, and I don't even know how you make that decision at that point, because you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. But at the same time, I can't help but feel a little disappointed at the circumstances of that game's launch. And I guess this is as good a time as any to kind of mention the pricing issue with it, which is, to me as a consumer, I believe that an early access game in the state that that game is in should not be being sold for $30. I think that, one of the things about early access is that you are performing as a consumer a great service to the developer of that game, in that you're helping them test it, providing feedback, doing a number of things, whether you actively participate in forum discussions and providing feedback or not. They are collecting data on how you play that game as a result of you being connected to their servers that is benefiting the development of that game. So essentially, you are performing, at least in some limited capacity, the acts of a beta tester or an alpha tester when you're participating in a game like that. And to me, if you're going to release the game in that state, I think the $30 price point was a bit much. I think it was a bit aggressive and it feels a little bit out of line for the state that the game was in at release to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, because perspective, right? It's like 7 Days to Die is a 30 or somewhere again around that range. And I apologize, I always forget the price of
It's
7
30.
Days to Die.
It's being sold at the same price as standalone right now. 30.
Yeah, and that game, again, it already achieves what it set out to do. That is in my mind, 7 Days to Die is a $30 game. DayZ, at its current launch, it should probably be more in the range of 15 to 20. And I know that, you know, you may be sitting there right now saying, is $10 really a difference maker? And in my mind, yeah, because the game is really, it's not in a good shape. But in all honesty, if the zombies worked, at the very least, if the zombies were functioning, I might still be playing that game. But $30 for broken zombies in a survival horror, in a survival game, especially one that really took and launched the whole or really kind of took that idea of survival and ran with it and made it really what a lot of people see it as now. It kind of
it stings a little
sucks.
bit.
Yeah.
It stings a little bit. It feels a little exploitative. I'm just going to say it. You know, I feel like at some point the decision was made, hey, we know everybody's going to buy this regardless of what state it's in, so let's just milk that extra 10 or 15 bucks out of people and get it up front and use that to pad our, you know, coffers and, you know, support the development of the game moving forward. And, you know, you can make an argument as to, you know, whether that's a good or bad business decision or whether that's a good or bad moral decision. But the fact of the matter is, just looking at that game objectively where it is right now, I think it is overpriced, even for early access for what it is. Because as I said before, you know, when you go and you buy that game on early access, you're giving a huge vote of confidence to that developer. You're taking a big risk in purchasing that game. And I think, you know, ironically, out of all of the early access games that I bought this year, I think I'm taking the biggest risk and the biggest chance on DayZ based on what I'm seeing of it right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure, the game could probably fix itself within a month or two, but at the same time, just the way it is, it should not have been charged at $29.99. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, you know, feel free to disagree. You know, it's perfectly reasonable for someone to disagree with that opinion, but that's pretty much all I have to say about it, I think, at this point. And, you know, certainly we're going to continue to cover standalone. You know, those issues that we have with it have in no way dulled our enthusiasm for that game conceptually. It is just the issue we currently face with it is just that we don't feel it's in a state where it's worth showing to people or worth covering the game in the state that it's in, because frankly, if it stays in that state for any length of time, that's really bad. You know, so when we're thinking about making content, we want to make content that's going to have some kind of shelf life to it, you know, that's going to be useful to people a week or 2 weeks or a month after we film it. And so for us to show you broken ass DayZ the way it is right now, I mean, hopefully by the time we get the video done and post it, they've made some changes to address some of the issues, you know. So, you know, we'll probably take another look at it, say around the end of January, and see where it's at and see if it's worth continuing to cover it at that point. But, you know, as it stands right now, I think we have to prioritize other games over it. I mean, there are other games that we haven't even looked at yet in this genre that I feel like deserve a shot before we come back around to DayZ.
Yeah. I mean, just plain as that.
So that does kind of bring us to another point, which is, you know, the whole idea of recurring coverage. You know, we've talked about in some of our previous videos the idea of wanting to, you know, continue to cover games as they develop, and we're still very adamantly on board with that idea. And, you know, obviously this is the first time we've actually shown the same game more than once here, using No More Room in Hell as kind of like the foundation for this video. But the problem that we have, or the problem we've kind of been facing, is we've been getting off the ground and getting a lot of these initial episodes out, is that there are just a lot of games in this genre now, and to try to stay current on what's going on and actually, give them all their due and give them all kind of a fair shake, it's getting kind of difficult, to be honest. I mean, I can already think of at least 2 games off the top of my head that we're going to be covering here at the beginning of the year, that being Rust and Nether, which we haven't even looked at previously. So there's still at least 2 titles that I think we need to feature and we need to do episodes on before we even think about going back and looking at something else that we've already looked at.
Yeah, I mean, especially Rust and Nether, because I booted it up the other day and I was actually kind of taking a look at it, and I liked a little bit of what I was seeing. Of course, I need to play a lot more because I only have about an hour or 2 under my belt. But just some of the concepts, like really the kind of almost an exclamation mark on PvP in that entire game, and really the way that you can level up and things like that. It's an interesting game, but that's the thing. We need to get to it, and to learn all the ins and outs, to really present the game to you guys, it takes time because we are on a tight schedule when we do these recordings.
Yeah, and I mean that's a good segue, and kind of leads into another point, which is, you might say, well, why don't you put out a video every day, or why don't you put out multiple videos a week? And really the plain and simple fact is we just don't have the time. As Max said, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into familiarizing ourselves with these games to be able to talk about them intelligently and actually create meaningful content for them. But beyond that, Max is a full-time student and I have a full-time job in addition to what we do here with the Safe Zone. So this is really just something we do as time allows, and as we're able to kind of sneak in and do things. This is not our job. We don't do this professionally. We try to bring a level of professionalism to it, but it is really something that we just kind of sneak in and do when the opportunity presents itself. And so, would it be great if I could, make the Safe Zone my career or the thing that I do to make a living? Absolutely, it would be fantastic, but, that's not a realistic goal or situation, especially given our current viewership and the current level of audience engagement we have. It's just we're not anywhere close to being that, so we just kind of have to make do with what we have.
Yeah.
So, okay, I did want to talk about a couple other things. I know this is getting kind of long, but there were a couple other kind of interesting developments in the genre over the past few weeks and over 2013 in particular. And another game that I think is definitely worth mentioning in that context would be the Dead Linger, because that was actually the first game that we covered on the Safe Zone, and actually there has been another build of it released since then, which we actually specifically chose not to cover because we were not convinced that it had changed sufficiently to warrant additional coverage. But Max, did you get a chance to watch that video that I linked you of the dev blog?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Of the woods.
Yeah. So, I mean, they talk about, build 11, which was the one that was just released, and the upcoming build 12, and kind of the thing that I really found interesting about that was them kind of talking about the future plans for 2014 for that game. Because one thing I love about those guys, Sandswept Studios is the developer of that game, is they have this almost like infinite, unbridled amount of enthusiasm for what they're doing. So it's like even when like you look at certain aspects of that game and you think, oh, maybe this looks a little rough or this looks like a little not where you think it necessarily should be, you just listen to those guys talk about what they're doing and just how pumped they are, and it kind of gets you amped. Like I would definitely recommend that people go and check out the their end of year sort of post-mortem 2013 development blog video. It's only about 7 minutes long, and there's some really interesting stuff in there and some really interesting insight into that game, kind of what's been happening with it lately and what they're planning to do with it in the future.
Yeah, that game, the amount of things that those guys want to add, especially because, and the guy even says it, the developer, like you said, Sandswept, even says it in the video, is like, it was rough, really doing that, making that transition to Unity, because that's why the game is currently in its alpha phase, because it really was in its beta phase until they started tinkering with Unity and found that it was a lot better engine to really make their game off of. And so that's why it's currently in the state that it's in, is because they made, that big change. And obviously I think it's definitely for the better, because Unity is just more convenient in a lot of the things that it has to offer, especially as a game development tool. So I think that especially the things that they're talking about, Unity's going to make a lot of what they want to do a lot easier. And especially the things that they want to add also sound really, really awesome, like hunting animals, and they're starting to do a lot of things with like their Kickstarter, their big Kickstarter backers, which I find is a very nice touch to see that finally starting to get implemented in the project. So that game, I mean, we say this about a lot of games, but again, it's got a lot of potential for what it wants to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a case where as much as I love the Deadlinger, and I do love the Deadlinger, I think it's a game that I cheer for a lot, because I feel like those guys are trying to do a lot with very little in a lot of regards, and I kind of that speaks to me, and I feel like I can relate to that in a lot of ways. But that's just to be clear, the reason why Deadlinger wasn't in consideration for Game of the Year for me is just because as ambitious as what they're doing is, and as much effort as they've clearly put into it, that game still has a ways to go, to be what it's intended to be. And that's the thing. Like the hunting stuff is actually in that build 11. You can go find a buck and kill it now and harvest meat from it and build a campfire and cook it and all that stuff. There are plenty of new features in that build, but when you get down to the nitty gritty details of how the game runs and how the environments are built and how everything kind of comes together, it's not that radically different from build 10. Or at least not different enough to justify a whole episode featuring it. I think how things will probably go for us moving forward with Deadlinger is, as builds are released and as we get to a threshold where the build that's released is sufficiently different from the last build that we covered, that's probably when we're going to do a new episode for that game. So, we'll see what build 12 looks like and what kind of changes come with that. That might be the time for us to jump back in and look at that game again, I think. But again, Deadlinger, as an early access game and as something that's available on Steam, I think that game is priced properly for what it is. It's $20. It's been on sale several times, since it's been on early access. And I feel like those guys have a really good sense of how to present their game in a realistic manner for what it is and keep people who are invested in their game informed about what's going on with it in a way that I think some other developers could take a few notes from.
Yeah, and obviously keeping in mind that the Deadlinger guys, again, don't have nearly the support or capital or team that obviously the people that we're talking about, Bohemia, do in making DayZ.
Calling them out. I was being kind of subtle about it, but we can point blank shotgun that. That's cool.
XCOM that, man.
100%. So I don't know. I think that's probably a good place to wrap this up. Like I said, this is getting kind of long. But I feel like these are good. This is a good kind of point for us to do a little bit of a retrospective and a little bit of a catch our breath moment here before we dive fully into 2014 and all of the stuff that's coming with it. Like when I look at all of these games that are available and all the new versions of them that are planned and all the features that are planned, it seems pretty clear to me that 2014 is going to be a pretty huge year for this genre. Like I almost feel like 2013 was kind of us waiting around for a lot of stuff to happen, and now a lot of those things have happened, and we're kind of poised to see the fruits of a lot of that blossom in this new year, and that's pretty exciting. Like as somebody who's really into these types of games and enjoys them, almost to a fault, I think this is going to be a really exciting 12 months, not just for the Safe Zone, but for the genre in general and for people who are interested in this stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and we'll still continue constant coverage. We'll, like we said, our future plans for, especially this year with, these games developing over time and revisiting of those and visiting new titles again. Like, like we said, the first 2 weeks into the year, we're going to try and cover, Rust and Nether and give you guys, as much coverage and really, what we've been giving you guys so far, just valid information on what the game's current state is and, should you buy it or should you not?
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day about the show and kind of the plans for it, and I guess one thing I kind of want to make clear to people, in case it's not clear, because I was kind of surprised when I was talking to him that he didn't kind of just inherently get this out of it, is that I kind of tend to view this show as consumer advocacy, right? Like, obviously we want to try to be entertaining. Obviously we want you to be entertained, and we want you to get something valuable out of this. But more importantly, far more importantly to me anyway, is that we're providing you with useful information about these games. We're telling you the good and the bad about them. We're telling you useful tips or tricks or gameplay advice, or just providing genuine, honest feedback and information about these games for you folks, for the developers of them, for anybody who cares or bothers to listen to what we have to say about them. That's, to me, what's important. I've thought oftentimes about making, shorter form videos, little 5 or 10 minute sizzle reels that cut out all the, boring parts from these videos and just show the highlights or whatever. But, we're not here to market these games. We're not here to be their advertising department. We're here to show you guys what's up and be as legit and as straightforward and as true to the games and what they're about as possible. And, if sometimes that means we need to make a 30-minute or 40-minute video on something, then that's just what we have to do, because that's the honest truth of what the game is. If I'm going to make a DayZ video and, 30 minutes of that video is me running around trying to find loot, I mean, that's the game. I'm not going to cut all that stuff out and just show you headshots to try to entertain you, because that's not the primary goal of this show. And I just want to make that clear to folks so that, the expectation is there and people understand what it is that we're actually trying to achieve here. Like I say, we want to be entertaining and we want people to be engaged with our content, but we also want to be accurate and honest and represent things properly.
Yeah, exactly. We really don't, again, want to be, like the advertising guys, because, they probably have a better advertising department than us anyways, so,
Exactly. I mean, that's not our job, as I see it.
Yeah, exactly. We're here for consumer advocacy. We just want to show, we want to give the games that, are done and have a lot going for them a shout out. Games that have, tons of potential, especially, if it's coming straight from the developer's mouth, we're going to shout out, them, like we just did with, The Dead Linger and the future plans for that, and 7 Days to Die. And, we just want to keep providing that same kind of content, that same kind of honesty to you guys, and we will in this coming 2014 year.
Right on. Okay, so let's go get ourselves killed.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Okay, so if you saw our previous video on this game, you know that this is a pretty brutal game. But I thought it might be fun to just take a crack at it and see how far we can get.
Give it the old college try.
Or the old crowbar try. Ba-chow.
Gordon Freeman.
Gordon Freeman. Let me see if I can find a... And the good thing is we've been on this level so long talking about it that there's no way we'll get another chance. So this is do or die time right here.
Or as Zombieland once said, time to nut up or shut up.
Nice. Oh, the zombies sound nice and wound up. They've been down there waiting for us for quite some time.
We've been teasing them.
Yeah, we've been teasing them with our human scent. Are you going to take any, like, barricading materials or anything like that?
Probably not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to bother either. That was ominous. How are we looking down there? Are we clear?
Yeah, we're clear.
Excellent.
As clear as it's gonna be.
Nice. Gotta make those shots count. Gotta make them count. Let me know if you want me to take a shot if you're having trouble connecting.
Die, zombie.
Shotgun over here.
Ooh. I think I picked up ammo for that.
Nice. Got the key over here on the bar.
Oh, okay, cool.
I can grab it if you want.
I was gonna say, I got the fire axe, so if
Yeah,
you
I
grab
got
the
it.
key, yeah, I got it.
I will levitate it over to the door. Bam! Alright, melee guy. That door is unlocked whenever you're ready for it.
Yeah. Okay, that way's closed off.
Aight. Mind the gap. How's your health?
Good. I don't think I've been hit yet.
It seems like melee's like been improved since the last time we looked at this, because you're really rocking those dudes. Or maybe you're just better at it. You've had more practice.
Well, yeah, I mean, too, I got the fire axe.
Oh yeah, that thing is pretty much the bomb.
Can't open that door.
Which is probably for the best considering how pitch black it is back here.
Yeah, and I think I dropped my mag light to pick up the shotgun.
Yeah, I never did find one, so that's probably bad.
Oh, damn.
Ooh, what is that? Is that shotgun ammo?
Yeah.
Alright, I'll let you deal with that.
I dropped my Molotovs.
I might be able to pick those up. Yeah, I got them.
Ooh, there's a first aid kit right here.
Ah, nice. Can you get it, or you want me to?
I'm pretty full.
Alright, I got it. I had some inventory left over.
Damn. Nope.
Probably gotta go down the hole.
Yeah.
That's the thing about this game, it's got those random elements too, like Contagion, where sometimes you just aren't quite sure what's gonna happen.
Yeah, they're just gonna throw curveballs no matter what you want. I can't open these doors.
These zombies look very hungry.
Wait, this is the way that we came from.
You went back up, right?
Yeah.
Whoa. Something went a little nuts down there. Well, there's that one stairwell. Yeah, this stairwell over here leads down.
Where'd you go?
Did you go downstairs? No, because there's Zeds
What?
down there. Over here, this stairwell.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't know if there's a way to get by it. Yeah. I can't open it.
I feel like we did this way on a previous playthrough. I feel like that was open, so there's got to be something else that's open this time. People are probably yelling at the screen right now.
It's like, we're sorry, we're sorry.
Usually there's some kind of indicator, right? Like there's some kind of red highlighted thing that you can see through the walls, right? That's like, oh, this is the next thing you're supposed to do, or the next place you're supposed to go. But I'm not seeing any of that.
Yeah, I'm having a real tough time.
I'm going to go back over into this dark area and see if maybe we missed something back here, because it seems like the one area we didn't really linger in.
Yeah, that's what I was like looking around for. Those doors are like locked.
All day, every day.
Did you open the door?
I thought I heard, yeah, I thought I heard that move. Oh, I think it was
okay.
just this outer door. I see. It was just this door connecting the hall. It's so damn dark back there, I can barely tell what was going on. We gotta just be missing something silly.
Like, those doors don't open. That one's locked.
Maybe there's a key somewhere. Although usually when there's a key, the door is highlighted.
That door's locked too.
I'm trying to remember if this game actually has a key to show you what the objective is. Maybe we're missing an objective or something. I don't remember seeing a message. Usually it pops a message up in the top part of the screen saying what you're supposed to do next, but I don't recall seeing anything important go by there.
This is the next segment.
Yeah, I feel like that door should be open, or there should be like an obvious way to open it.
It's gotta be downstairs somewhere.
It's got to be maybe down the ladder. There's got to be something down there we missed.
Yeah, because there's no other way. Oh, okay.
Were
Alright,
we
go
being
back.
dumb?
Well, there's a switch that opens up the metal gate down there.
I thought something like that. I couldn't remember. It's been too long. There are a lot of zombies outside, FYI.
Yeah. Here, could you grab this? Whatever.
Don't we just shoot it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we need to.
Yeah, GTFO, and I'll look at this, the revolver tap. Ready?
Yep.
I love that. So great. Fire extinguisher here on the thing. Back off if you need to. Yeah, I thought that was a bit much to have you do all that.
I think I hear some kind of fire. Oh wait, never mind. It's just the fireplace fire. Some kind of rounds on the bookshelf here.
Hey, revolver rounds. That was handy.
We got one load left.
There's some like anti-infection medication over here in this corner.
Yeah, I'm full.
Oh, okay.
Good looking out, though. Well, if anything touches me, that means things have gone really badly.
Oh man, looks like we gotta go outside.
Oh boy. You want me to try to shoot it?
Oh yeah.
That's weird. Usually those are hatchetable, aren't they? There's a sledgehammer right here too. Almost as if to say, are you doing the power swing or are you doing like the side swing?
It is just not letting me. This door is locked. Oh wait a minute, wait, what is this?
Famous last words. Where did you go? Oh no. That sounded explodey.
7 loads remaining. 7 loads remaining.
Are we supposed to use that?
I don't ever remember there being a padlock that you couldn't just kill with a melee weapon. It's weird. Oh boy.
Okay, you gotta weld it.
Okay. Alright, well, I'm trying to cover as best I can. Little kid zombies freak me out.
I'm all out of loads!
Whew. Sorry about that, I missed a couple shots there. Oh, seriously? That should have totally been a hit.
Oh man.
6 loads remaining.
Yeah,
I'm out
that's
of
terrible.
magazines!
Sometimes you get the headshot just dead on and it just does not register, which is really annoying.
Die, zombies. Here, dude, just run.
I'll do that. Got a ladder over here.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Is there some kind of Jenny around here?
Not seeing it highlighted. I don't see it over the fence. I wonder if I can get to that window without killing myself. Seems unlikely. It also seems like that window's not open.
Bastard.
That sucked. I didn't realize he was down there.
I'm really hard-pressed to see where we're supposed to be going.
Oh, seriously, game? Ah, that's a bummer.
No!
Oh, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
I'm sorry.
That's alright. You did what you had to do.
How's my health looking?
You don't look great.
Oh, shit.
That first aid kit should be up on top of those stairs, though.
Alright, how do I look now?
You're green. Super green.
Alright. I'm super green, super green.
I mean, do you think that it could be where they're coming from? Because, I mean, the ladder seems like a red herring, because when you go up there, those windows are very clearly closed, and there's no ledge to get to them that I can see.
Yeah, that's true.
That looks openable. You're gonna
What
need
the
the
hell
torch again.
is that? I guess so.
Yeah, too bad we didn't figure that out a little sooner. Also too bad my headshots totally were not registering there on that guy that had me. course, the door opens out instead of in.
Yeah. Sheesh. So what, do I get in the boat?
Maybe.
Oh, no, 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 no. So, what?
Maybe jump from the dock? You need to
Game.
untie it, maybe?
Or do I go around there?
Well, I was trying to think what could possibly be the escape scenario, and if it's not the boat, what is it?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, wait.
I mean, unless this is just a red herring, like unless there was something in here you were supposed to find, but it's not actually the objective.
Ah, jeez.
If you get a little bit of a run there, you can probably basically jump to shore.
Oh, okay, there's nothing over here.
Awesome.
Wow.
Dead.
Oh my goodness.
I literally cannot remember the different ways that scenario can end. Like, I can't remember what it is that you're actually supposed to be getting to.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I remember we went into the mine that one time when we played with the guys. There was like that underground area with the ladders, because I fell down the ladder and that's how I died.
Yeah.
Oh well, it was a valiant effort.
I tried.
You did.